What's up, everybody? Christian Fowler here with Bluff City Media, and joining me is my guy with no voice, Kenny Stubblefield. But we are back with another breaking news, break down the news podcast. Unfortunately, we didn't have the time to do it last night, so we're going to get it out today. Still, no biggie. We're going to break it down as well as we can. On Wednesday night, former UCF guard Jaylen Young announced that he will be transferring to the University of Memphis. And Kenny, we might have to calm some people with this one.
Yeah, man.
I've seen some mixed reactions on Jaylen Young. What were the initial thoughts?
I think there's a twofold reaction that's happening here, and it's okay. I think that when you have a bunch of people coming out and talking about a former five-star guard that played at a high-level school like IMG, who ended up playing for a team that was the number one team in the nation for a long time, considered to be one of the best in the country, and Jalen Bradley. Did I say Jalen or Jaden?
Jaden Bradley.
Excuse me. I meant to say Jaden, but I'm getting my names mixed up. Jaden Bradley, and there's rumors that he's on campus, which he was, and there's rumors that Memphis was right there with NC State in terms of a commitment, which Memphis was. And then things kind of go quiet. People start to question like what's going on, and so when a guy like Jaylen Young from UCF, who is a 6'2", 175-pound point guard, commits and doesn't have the accolades that a Jaden Bradley does, then of course there's going to be a natural instinct to be slightly disappointed in that commitment over, the potential of a guy like Jaden Bradley. And I understand that, but I do think that there has been a reaction of, about Jalen's commitment. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's misguided. I think that the reactions towards that I've seen even some media members make about Jaylen Young's commitment is rather absurd and needs to change. Honestly, I think if people do a deep dive on Jaylen Young and what he can provide, I think Jaylen Young's a good player.
Yeah, but I'm gonna lean a little more towards the other way, and not necessarily negative, but you would hope this is not the plan to be the starting point guard
And
in
maybe
Jaylen
so.
Young.
And maybe so. But I would also come back to you, Christian, and say, I don't feel if Penny goes into the season with Jaylen Young as the starting point guard for the University of Memphis, I'm not upset about that.
I just think they could do better than that. And that's no disrespect. I mean, I'm with you. Like, Jaylen is a solid player, like 4.5 points, 2.5 rebounds, 2 assists. Like, he's a solid player, but he's not really a needle mover. And we saw this reaction kind of with Nick Jourdain when he first committed. And I think Nick Jourdain's a little bit more of a needle mover than Jaylen Young. I think Jaylen Young is good at his role. He's not a bad 3-point shooter. But I mean, when you look at it, he just didn't play a ton in big games. Like, if you look at the games he played against Memphis, I'm pretty sure he only played like 12 minutes maybe in the games
He
against
had one of
Memphis.
the, I think, second highest scoring game against Memphis at Memphis. He had 10 points.
Yeah, I'm talking about the last game, the conference tournament game. Sorry, I think he 6 minutes, no points, didn't really do much. So he was one of those guys that, he had some games where he played more minutes. He had some games where he didn't play many minutes. So I don't think this is like a huge needle moving move for Penny Hardaway and the staff. I don't think this makes you worse, but I don't necessarily think it makes your ceiling much higher at all.
Well,
I
can
do
I say
think Jaylen
something?
Young. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Can I push back on that a little bit? So our guys over at Tigers Untapped, and I don't know the guy's name. I'm bad with saying this guy's last name, but there's guys that do these kind of roster breakdowns, and they have a system in which they will project out what a roster's rating will be in terms of when players are added and things like that. Right now, the Tigers sit at 49th in the country in terms of roster with Jaylen Young as their point guard. Do you know where they would have been if Jaden Bradley had committed?
What, like 45 or something like that?
49.
Really?
It wouldn't have changed the rating.
Yeah, I guess you can use that analytical stuff, but at the end of
I'm
the day,
just saying.
I think we all know that the ceiling for this team and just the higher end for this team, Jaden Bradley would have made you unquestionably a better team. And I think it hurt even worse on Wednesday night because Jaden commits to Arizona and then Jaylen commits to Memphis, and so it feels like the one that got away for Memphis fans. And I understand the sentiment. Like, we were talking about it behind the scenes, off the record, just about Jaden Bradley and what he could bring to the table. And that was a player that, we knew they were close to getting and almost closed the deal on. And we were like, okay, this is big. Like, this is a big time move. Former 5-star McDonald's All-American, and it just didn't pan out that way.
Well, we're
So with
sitting here
that being,
talking about Jaden Bradley the whole time. Let's talk about Jaylen Young.
yeah, and like I said, I think Jaylen brings good things to the table. But at the same time, we do have to address the elephant in the room. Like, that's what people
Of
are
course.
thinking. But
Of course.
Jalen's a solid player. I think he's a good backup point guard. I think he's a really good reserve point guard that can come in and play 10 to 20 minutes off the bench and give you good minutes and not ruin the rhythm and the flow of the team, because I think he understands his role. He knows he's not like an elite level scorer, but he can shoot. But he's also a good passer and a good floor general. So I like what he brings. I'm not saying that I don't. I just don't think that he can be the starting point guard. And he might excel in that role. I have no idea, but I just feel like there has to be some higher end talent. And Gabe and I talked about this on the radio this week. This Mikey Williams stuff is really, and I'm not trying to talk about everything but Jaylen Young, but this is all correlated. Like, all this stuff
It's all
goes together.
connected. It's all connected.
Right. And it's like, well, okay, so if Mikey's coming, is Mikey the starting one and Jalen's the backup? Okay, I can see that. That gives you a little bit of upside with Mikey, and you don't necessarily know what you have. And then with Jaylen, you know what you have. You have a solid backup point guard. But there's just so much in flux right now. Like, we don't know. Are Mikey and JJ going to be on campus in a couple of months? We don't know. Are they going to part ways and try to fill those spots with other transfers or possible reclassifications? We know anything can kind of happen at this time of the year. So it's just a very confusing and kind of sketchy time right now for the University of Memphis basketball program. It's May 4th. Today is May 4th. I believe the portal closes May 11th. The deadline is May 11th.
And we need to reiterate to Tiger fans, the portal closes for entries, not for signing. You can still sign players. So
up to the summer.
Up until the summertime, right? So it's not like Penny has a week left to sign players. He's got more time than that.
No, there just won't be any more entries after that. That's the deadline for players entering the portal. So, and there's a ton of players. I'm not concerned about that. I'm just saying, like, the closer it gets and the closer it gets to that period in the summer when players report, you want to have your roster by that point. You don't want to still be worrying about Mikey and JJ and who's going to be the starting one and who do we need to bring in if they don't come. Like, I am kind of surprised that we haven't seen anything happen thus far with this. And it makes you question, like, okay, has he resided to the fact of just keeping them in the fold? Is that what's happening? Is that why we're not seeing any movement? Is he working behind the scenes to get other people in? And once he feels like he's got those people, then does he part ways? I really don't know. I don't know what his plan is right now. Like I've mentioned
it would be full conjecture for us to try to figure out what Penny is trying to do right now.
Absolutely.
But I'll say I can with confidence say that Penny Hardaway is working behind the scenes. And there are things happening, right? Like, that we don't know about. And that's okay. Like, that's the way Penny rolls, and he likes to keep things close to the vest, and that's just typical for Penny Hardaway as a head coach. I'm going to be frank with you, Christian. We've had a long discussion in the Discord this morning about it, about the Tiger basketball program. I'll just go on record and say I still don't know how you bring Mikey Williams to Memphis, but
I don't either.
I I don't know how you can justify it. I don't know how, unless like you said a few weeks ago and on the Bluff, unless there is a total acquittal, not even acquittal, a total dropping of charges and saying we
Yeah.
were wrong. I don't know how you do it. I also, I don't blame, like there's not been any pen signed, or there's not been any money dispersed in terms of scholarships yet. Mikey's not a student at the
On
University of
campus.
Memphis. He's
Yeah.
not on campus. So it's not like it's hurting anything to not part ways with him right now. But I don't know how you bring him on campus. And so I would fully expect, just as as somebody who is, an outsider looking in, I would say there's going to be some major moves that are made in terms of the Tiger basketball roster within the next week or two, because we know Penny's still working, and just as a human being, I don't know how you bring Mikey in and justify it with the situation being what it is right now.
Yeah, and now with how long this is kind of dragged out, you have people on both sides of the fence. Some people, you have people the main portion of people in the beginning were like, cut it, like be done with it, cut ties. We do not want to be associated with this. Like, good luck to him, no disrespect to him, but we just feel like it would be best if we moved on. And I'm talking about fans here, not the coaching staff.
Jaden Bradley committing to Arizona has changed the minds of a lot of people.
Yes, because now you have a lot of people saying, well, I was thinking that I wanted Mikey to leave, but now I feel like we may be better off with him coming, and hope that this stuff gets cleared up. So there is for this time of year, and for
Man,
how important this stretch is going into the summer when players report and you start becoming a team,
yeah.
there is a ton of uncertainty. And I really do believe that Penny and the staff will get it cleaned up before then. But I know a lot of fans are feeling very rocky right now. Very rocky right now. Don't know how to feel at all.
Is this kind of typical though for this time of the year for Memphis Tiger fans though? Like there's always been a little bit of angst and anxiety around the transfer portal because it's so new and so it's not your typical college basketball recruiting. It is not. And so for the last couple of years during this time of the year, there has been a lot of angst. And I think what we've seen is that Penny has proven, I think, even last year, that he can bring in a program, bring in players that will do well, that will be good players. And I see that with Jaylen Young. I see Jaylen Young being a guy who his best role would be served to be a backup point guard, but stepping in like he did last year and I cannot remember the point guard's name for UCF last year, the guy who I think he was injured against Memphis, right? He had the ankle injury, maybe. I can't remember his name, but when he stepped in as the starting point guard for UCF last year, I think they were 8-1 during that time. So yeah. Penny is working. Penny is doing his thing. I do think that Jaylen Young has the potential to be a decent point guard for University of Memphis. I just do.
Yeah. Are you talking about Horton or Darius Johnson?
Darius Johnson. Yeah.
Darius Johnson. That's what I thought. Yeah. So I mean, like, I think you kind of posed the question, like, is this abnormal to have this much angst and anxiety at this time? There's a little more right now, because if there was 1 to 3 scholarships to fill right now, people would be like, okay, the roster's pretty much complete. We just got to fill in the gaps. But now it's like there's limbo. We're in limbo with Mikey, and a lot of people think if Mikey doesn't come, JJ is not going to come, which is a common thought and a good thought to have. So it's just there's so much in limbo and so much in flux, but this is a player that does steady things. I mean, he absolutely gives you kind of that Band-Aid relief at the point guard position. If everything else felt like if Mikey's not on campus and you have to insert Jaylen as a starter, I don't hate it. I don't think he's going to flop in the role. I think he'll do fine. I just don't think he has like electric upside by any means. But I think same thing with Elijah McCadden, Keontae Kennedy last year.
Right, 100%.
They played really well. They weren't expected to be anything special, and they played really well. And I think Jaylen has that same kind of potential where we may not expect much from him, but he comes in, especially as a sophomore, going into his junior year now, about to be an upperclassman. We could see some development. We know Penny's done a good job with his guards over the last several years, so I'm not hating. I'm not hating on it at all. I just know that personally, like I was starting to see this team with Jaden Bradley a couple weeks ago, and then when it trended away, there was a lot of things up in the air. And now with the addition of Jaylen Young, it steadies some things, but we'll see what's next. I mean, by no means are Penny and the staff done with building this class, so we'll see how the next month or so shakes out before players report over the summer.
Yeah, man, I agree, Christian. I think this is an interesting time, and all I know is that Penny he's working behind the scenes doing his thing, and we'll see what happens, man. College basketball is a different world right now than it ever has been.
Yep, it should be interesting, but I think that wraps us up. We usually try to keep these pretty quick, so I think we're at a good time right now for everybody to kind of digest this news and everything else that we've talked about. So head over to bluffcitymedia.co, check out all the content we got over there. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, comment, like, turn on notifications. Also, all of our podcasts on the Bluff, Tigers Untapped, the Will Coleman Show, all of our Grizzlies podcasts are available wherever you get your podcasts. So we appreciate you guys for joining us, and we'll see y'all next time.